I'll just say about personality disorders, right? So the thing is, personality disorders is like, let's say we were talking about borderline, right? And there's like antisocial personality disorders, and there's all these different names that they have for, sociopath, psychopath, narcissist, malignant narcissist, somatic narcissist. Somatic uses their body to seduce people. They might if it's a guy, he might use a lot of dildos and everything, and he's like really good at getting the girls off, but it's not for the normal purpose. Like he's fucked up in the head, and he's using it for another reason, just to control her or whatever, And then there's sadistic personality disorder, and basically there's really a lot of breakthroughs lately. So that's why I figure it's important, because some of the stuff I didn't agree with. So let me just say I'll say what I think. The reason why a girl would be like this, okay, is they used to think that it was something wrong with her. Okay, so she's got some chemical imbalance, or or it was like a source of ridicule, right? I said this and she said this, doesn't make any sense, ha ha ha, right? And so, but the thing is what pretty much I would say the guys that are onto something today will say is that the reason why someone will act irrationally is because there's a reason. Okay, so you're not born a certain way exactly. Okay, so for example, if a child has a house where he is not safe, okay, so maybe let's say his father is abusing him, right? And whenever he tells his mother something, she tells the father, right? And so then he gets abused more, right? And so what happens is the child, who has a hardwired tendency to love their parents and to want their parents, will, for example, they will act in ways that you can see. So for example, a child, let's say that a mother is abusive, like seriously abusive, right? So the child let's say the daycare center, she'll see her mother coming in and she'll light up, and then she'll walk towards her mother and then fall down, because she sees her mother and she wants to connect. She wants to love her mother, but then she realizes that it's not safe, so she's torn. Right? I had a dog, right? It was half desert dog, it was half Afghan, and it was half lab. So it was half water dog and half desert dog. And I swear to God, this dog, I lived on the beach, and every time I let the dog go, he would run into the water, super happy. And then as soon as he got in the water, he would freak out and run back out. Like he would just like running like so happy. And then he hits it, he'd go, and then he'd freak out. I swear, until the day that dog died, it was the same every single time. Because he had two personalities, right? He had the water and the desert all in one dog. So that's kind of the best way to think about a kid who does not have any chance. There is nobody safe in their life, so they cannot connect. You're supposed to develop a connection with your parents. This is what creates the stability in your life later, is that you can trust, that there's somebody that you know what I mean, there's a safe place. You might get robbed outside, but then you can come home. With kids who they can't trust their home, they're in an impossible situation. They're literally, it's an impossible situation. There is no answer. Like they're basically in hell, because they're unsafe outside, and then they come home and they're unsafe. And then they get angry and they act up in school. So what do? They tell the parents, and then the parents abuse them. So it's like Jeffrey Dahmer had somebody in his room, a Vietnamese guy, and the guy got out. He was naked. He ran down the street, and he told the police, "This guy has heads in his refrigerator. He's crazy. He wants to eat me." And then Jeffrey Dahmer came up and said, "Oh, we're gay. It's a lover's spat." And the policeman said, "Oh, okay." And they gave him back to him, and he ate the guy. True story. You can read about it. And so that's how society is with parents. Nobody can believe that a parent cannot love a child. Nobody is able to wrap their head around this. until they've gone through therapy and really understood if they were not loved at home and it was not safe. So someone like this girl, they have to develop a defense mechanism, a way to live. They have to, because it's really impossible. So what they do is they have numerous ways that they can that they can somehow survive in this world, right? And keep going on, right? So they're just adapting to what's available. So it's kind of like, one of my friends was a pickpocket in India when he was a kid. He's like older now, but there was no money where he was. So he had like a razor blade in his mouth, and then he would cut people's bags and take their wallets, right? And so, so that was the way it's the only way he could eat, right? So he had to survive. That's how he did it. So that's what kids do. They just fucking figure it out. So it's really sad, actually. That's what the kids have to do. So when a girl has that, she basically survived a very difficult situation. You can say for sure. Yeah. Now, often with trauma, you don't understand what happened to you because of a number of defense mechanisms in your own brain. Okay, so if you ask her, unless she had a very good person to talk to, she probably won't be able to explain it or in any way that anybody can understand, right? Now, maybe if she had a brother or sister, they could, but the problem with abuse is so weird is it changes over time. So, for example, my brother, my sister, and me have very different experiences at different ages because we're a couple years apart. So, like my dad was alcoholic. So there was a period where he drank a lot. And that was in, for example, my period when I was in the period where you need, kind of support from your parents, And so he wasn't there, or he was not doing what I needed when I needed it. And so, whereas my sister, she was a little older. So it was easier for her, she kind of skipped over. So it's the same family. So someone could be very damaged, and even people in their own family will accuse them of lying or exaggerating. They didn't have the same experience.
Same people, but different experience.
Same parents, same house.
That's my family too.
Different experience. So that it's that's why it's so difficult. And then when you are abused, naturally, like I said, you do want to love your parents. And so there is this hardwired thing in there. And so what the child does is, if they're abused, if they're treated badly, if they're not given what they need as kids in certain ages, and there's child development, there's different stages, what they need in different stages, right? So if they don't get what they need, kids automatically assume that they must have done something wrong. Okay, so that's like an assumption they have. So they're gonna think like, daddy's treating me bad, like, because kids do stuff like they forget things, they don't wash up, there are always stuff going on that they're not sure how important everything is, but they know they're not hitting everything perfectly, right? They might get in a fight or drop something or get some stain on their clothes, drop their food. There's all this stuff that's going on, be late, forget something to school or something, or so they're not. So there's a lot of things that they could think were wrong or right. So when they're abused, that it's natural for them to think that they did something wrong, right? It's like when you do something wrong, then you get punished, right? So if you're getting punished, you just kind of think, well, what am I must be doing something. He must be angry about this. And then the abusive parent doesn't want to be seen as a monster, right? So they're going to say, well, it's because you got an F or whatever. But then if you actually look at the other kids in the family, they did the same fucking thing and nothing happened. So, but it's just an excuse. Right. So the parents don't want to be seen as being bad, right? And abusive parents are especially allergic to looking at themselves. So basically, this is what evil is, basically. Evil is the inability to see your faults. This is truly where evil starts, is when you think that you can't see what you're doing and how it affects other people. So it really starts, if you look back to all things, it's this covering up, inability to see. There's a great book called by Scott Peck. He wrote a lot of books like The Road Less Traveled and stuff, but he wrote a book called People of the Lie, and in the first couple of chapters are really good. It's for free on YouTube, you can watch it. But he describes these parents whose son committed suicide, and then they basically, even after the son committed suicide, they gave the gun that he committed suicide, they gave it to their next son as a birthday present, right? And, well, they didn't have much money, and they thought, well, you know, and there's a lot of excuses, but if you go to the heart of it, it's the inability to admit you're doing anything wrong, you know? And that's why that's why I always balk at a lot of the content I see online, especially like because the men's community is our community, right? So when I see people saying it's all women's fault, right? The problem with that is that if you can't see your own faults, you fall into this. You fall into this very, very dark path, because all of a sudden you're never wrong, you know, or they're more wrong, you know, and so I'm never wrong. So that eventually that leads to really, really not good places. So it's that's why we have guilt, right? That's why we feel bad about something, right? I one time felt guilty, and I said to this guy that was helping me, I said, hey, I feel guilty. And then I thought he was going to say, hey, you know, it's okay, man, you know. He said, well, because you're probably guilty. And I was like, and I like, whoa, you know, I didn't want him to say that, you know. And then, you know, we went through it, and yeah, I was guilty about something. I had done something that I felt guilty about. But actually, at the time, I didn't really understand what he was really saying. What he was really saying is that that's good.
These are human.
You have guilt. You know, you can see yourself. This is where everything starts. You know, where you can see that you were wrong about stuff. You can see that you made a mistake. Now, it's not going to be fun. It's never fun. But it separates, you know, somebody who goes on the right path and the wrong path. Really, in life. You know, you can stretch it out all the way. You know, because you can just, your whole life, you can just ignore that you have any responsibility, right, for things, you know, and then it doesn't go anywhere. Because in the end, we're not perfect, right? We make mistakes, right? You know, it's okay, right? It's okay to, that's the thing, is sometimes you have to learn that it's okay to be yourself. And it's okay to make mistakes, you know. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to come to one summit, say something, and come to the next one and say, I was completely full of shit last time. Right? Like, it's okay to do that. You know what I mean? In fact, that's a sign. Like, it's like you figured it out, right? You know? And you might even be wrong that you were full of shit. Because someone might say, actually, I don't think you are. Because have you thought about this? And then you say, oh, but see, we were open to it, right? You were like trying to figure it out. You were not like protecting yourself, right? So what happens with abusive people is they're not able to do that. So they are going to project onto other people their wrongs onto other people. So, or if they feel bad inside themselves, they're going to drive you to make you feel bad, and that makes them feel better. So right. So there's different. So personality disorders. It's a huge topic. But the thing is that I would say the latest research is really that it's a defense mechanism against something. And the reason why I really wanted to talk is because you said like there's two people, like resilient and not resilient to abuse. Definitely not true. Everybody is affected by abuse. Okay? You can survive from something, but that doesn't mean that it didn't affect you.
Oh, I didn't say that it didn't affect, but I mean like the degree to which it did affect.
But I still disagree.
Level of like agreeability, you know, you're like where you're falling.
It's just a different reaction. Some of it you can't see.
Right.
See, there's two basic reactions to a bad situation. One is like a kid, right? Like let's say the little baby, right? If you fuck with the kid, he's gonna either attack, like start running around smashing things, or he's gonna sit in the corner like this, right? Yeah. So he's either gonna go inside or he's gonna go outside. So when you go outside as a man, that's when you get in trouble with the law. And that's when the school starts to penalize you. just this morning, I was with, what's her name? Lily, who did the tour yesterday. And her son, right, had abusive, actually, you know what? I should cut this part out because she doesn't like using her name. But okay, yeah, I'll delete this part. But this morning I was with this kid, and he was a bully in his school, and the bully was kicking people down the stairs, and everybody around me was saying, this kid needs to be punished. This kid needs to be, And I was sitting there, but I've done so much searching in myself and so much. Like basically, I really think I'm like therapist level on this stuff now. Yeah, like I really understand it. Yeah. So hey guys, so I said to the kid, I said I was interested in hearing more. So I said, well, tell me about his father, his parents. So then they said, oh, we're talking about a bully. And so the bully, I asked him about his parents, and they said, oh, his dad is a policeman, and he said we invited him to the school a couple weeks ago, whatever, and he wouldn't talk to anybody. He told everybody to fuck off. And so the thing is, here's a bully. Here's how a bully is created. A bully is abuse, same exact thing as a borderline. Right. So if the boy was kicking people down the stairs, right, from behind, right, so I can guarantee you this, is that kid's getting kicked down the stairs by his dad, okay? And so he is being kicked down the stairs, and a bully is somebody who has been abused, and he gave in. So you're a little kid, you got a huge father, and he's throwing you down the stairs, he's punching you, and you have no choice. That's the thing about abuse. You don't have a choice as a kid. So the kids, they're really in an impossible situation. Right. It's just impossible. There is no options. They can't just pack a suitcase and go to Los Angeles. Like, they live at home, they're 7, you know what I mean? Like, they just can't do anything. It's so fucking hopeless, right? It's terrible, really. And so, the kid gets abused, and then the kid is very embarrassed about one reaction. And a lot of men, even here, have experienced, in fact, everybody's experienced this at some point. So when a gazelle is being chased by a lion, okay, the lion chases the gazelle. And let's say that there's one gazelle, and he's kind of outside the pack. And so the lion's going to chase that one. So he starts chasing it, and he's gaining on it, right? Of course, the gazelle is going to try to get away, but let's just say it's hopeless, right? Then what the gazelle will do is, just as the lion is about to bite him, he will fall to the ground, right? Like collapse. And then the lion runs over him, right? And then the lion comes back, and then the gazelle just lays there like he's dead. So then the lion will take the gazelle and pull him to his den or whatever for his cubs. And then what sometimes happens, which the reason why this mechanism happens, this giving up, it's basically bending over, it is because it's a defense mechanism. Because what happens is he drags him back to the cave, and then maybe he goes and gets his cubs, and then he gets up and runs away. So it's a survival mechanism.
Playing dead sometimes works.
It's like playing dead, but what it comes into human for us, it's when we give in, or when we allow someone to abuse us, when we allow it to happen, when we, and this is what as men is our most embarrassing stuff, is when we let somebody do something to us that we feel like we shouldn't, like we should not allow this to happen. A man would not allow this to happen, whatever it is, and it could be a small thing, it could be a big thing, but it's like, so we allow ourselves it to happen, and then we don't understand it. Why did we do that? And so we hate that in ourselves. Like, that's the last thing you're ever going to tell anybody, is that you allowed this thing to happen, right? Let's go back to the bully. So the bully has no choice, but, he can fight his dad as much as he wants, but, there's only so many fucking broken arms you can take, right? And as a little kid, you're just going to give in. But then the bully is very, very, very embarrassed about this, because he has no one to talk to. Because if he talks to anybody, he's going to get beat up again. Because the dad's going to say, I didn't do anything to that kid. He's making it all up. He got in a fight. He fell down the stairs. He got hit by a car. He fell off his bike. Whatever. And so then everyone's going to believe the adult, right? And so then the bully is incredibly embarrassed about this. And so what he does is he wants to put it on you. So he punches you so that you're on the ground cowering. And he hates that. So then he hits you again or kicks you down the stairs because he's kicking it in himself for allowing it to happen before. So it's like he hates in himself and sees it in you, right? So that's why he's so vicious. That's why a bully is so vicious, because he's seeing himself in you, and he hates that. He hates that he has this in himself. So with the personality disorders, yeah.
You think he's bullying him? Maybe pretending that guy is his dad?
The bully.
No.
Yeah, I understand. Is he pretending it's his dad?
Yeah.
Is acting? There's a number of things that, like, I'm not sure exactly. I would say it depends. It's often unconscious. These are, especially for children, it's very, very unconscious. Children are almost like drones until a certain age, where they can actually become individual people. So children are completely unconscious, and all of this stuff is very unconscious because there's so much shame around it, and it's impossible to talk to anybody about it. Because if you tell anybody, okay, let's say if you told their teacher, and then the teacher called the police, well, then you're going to get the shit kicked out of you really bad when your dad finally gets home, because he's going to get home. So you're going to pay, right? So the father can't accept in himself that he is doing these things. And then the son can't talk to anybody because nobody in the family is safe, right? Because if he talks to anybody, so what happens is the other children, okay, his brothers and sisters, kids are smart. So the kids learn that the easiest thing to do is to blame the one kid, because they realize the kids are smart, right? So they're like, whenever I blame him, it seems like it all makes sense and everybody's happy, right? So then the father's like, it's you again, and so then what happens to the child, that's called the scapegoat. The child then starts to realize, it sounds crazy, but this is what happens. The kid starts to realize that the easiest way to move forward is if he accepts the blame. Because if he says he doesn't do it, then he gets the shit kicked out of him by everybody. But if he just says, okay, it's my fault, then everybody's like, okay, yeah, no problem, right? You're hopeless anyway, right? So then sometimes not even punished, right? But he's punished even deeper because now he's creating his self-image. It started out where the kid was confused why he's getting beaten up. And he doesn't understand that his dad could be alcoholic. He doesn't understand that his dad lost money in the horse races, or his dad just lost his job, or his mom is cheating, or that his dad just found out something really bad. He lost money in the stock market or something, right? And so he doesn't understand that. He just thinks, I must have done something wrong. And then eventually, I must be wrong.
Right.
And then he gets kudos for accepting blame in the family. So then that sets the kid up to be, really terrible situation. So either go to prison or, whatever, anything bad, right? Either become a criminal, go to prison, or just not perform anywhere near his capacity. Because usually the scapegoat is usually the most talented kid. Usually. So like not using that talent is the biggest sin, right? Just not using what you have, is just the worst. And I can see it in people. You can see it, And so the thing is when there's somebody who is, when somebody has a personality disorder, they've gone through stuff, right? Now they don't understand it. Often they will deny it until they finally get some kind of good doctor. Like the problem is nobody fucking hardly understands this. No, even today there's very few like specialists who really get it. And it's usually somebody who went through it and got training, right? Both. But there's a really great book, probably the best book for getting over this stuff. It's The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score. And that's available on YouTube. I can send it. I can put it, if I put this public, I can put it below. But it's online, and there's two. There's part 1 and part 2 is not labeled, so I can put it in a box here for you guys, and then you guys can listen to it. But if you're interested in this kind of stuff, so then they have actually, this guy actually has techniques that you can actually move past this stuff once and for all. But for somebody like that girl, or somebody like any of these abusive people you could think of, it's kind of amazing they made it. Like, they survived somehow. They really are the ones who made it to adulthood and stuff. They're kind of the survivors. So the things they're doing are defense mechanisms, survival mechanisms to make it, right? But the problem is they don't work anymore. So it's like the squid, he only has like black ink, right? So like he just, the guy's got a spear gun. He's like black ink. He's like, and then like propeller on a boat, black ink. He only has one thing that he learned as a 3-year-old, as a 5-year-old, and something like that. So that's the problem, is his defense mechanism no longer is appropriate for his era, right, where he is today. And so, but there really are, the people really are not hopeless, but they are hopeless in the fact of you changing them. Yeah. Okay, so the idea that you can just go in and fix these people, it's not saying it couldn't happen, but it's probably not the best way to spend your life, Right. And so now, but here's the bad news for you, and there is bad news, is that we choose these things because of a reason. Okay, we choose these partners because of something in our background. Right. And so what you do, if you want to learn from this, is then start to go in and figure out what is it in my background that brought me in this place, without judgment. Yeah, without judgment. Because again, most of this stuff was done to us. That's abuse as a kid. It's usually childhood. Okay, it's not usually in college, and it's usually someone very close to you where you really didn't have a choice. If it was a neighbor or something, you just wouldn't go over there, right? If it was a friend, you wouldn't hang out with them. It's somebody you can't get away from, right? Yeah. And so you went through something, and so now, so there is hope for people who are even extremely, like this book, The Body Keeps the Score. The examples he gives are just amazing, like just amazing life changes that people have done based on the latest research, and some of it is quite funny and quite simple, actually. But definitely there is good shit out there today to overcome. So the reason why you want to go in deep if you run into these situations is because this shit is so covert in your mind, and it's something that you might not realize until you're like in your 40s or 50s. Why is that? Because when you're a child, you have defense mechanisms built into you to survive. So, for example, a kid could be at home, abused very badly, okay? Anything, sexual, whatever, But then when they go to school or their friends come over, they suddenly go into, I'm fine, right? And so this is why a lot of people didn't think abuse was really affected people, is because when you watch the kids, they go out and play baseball, they do things, everything seems fine. But the thing is, everything isn't fine. And so, like, there's defense mechanisms, and there's also more insidious things, okay? Like, there's parts of your brain that you can turn off. Okay, so part of the reason why I used to race motorcycles and do so many crazy things is because as a kid, I was terrified. And I didn't know that until recently. I had to go back into it. And so I literally turned off that part of my brain. So when I was doing those things, I was trying to feel something. I was trying to feel scared, because you want to get in there and fix it this time. You want to do it right this time. It's like approaching a girl, right? You approach one, and then the next time you want to do it better, right? You want to figure it out. So it's an attempt to fix it. But what happens is you're just getting in these terrible situations over and over. But actually, it has a good reason. You're actually trying to fix something. You're trying to, you know there's something there, and you can't figure out what it is, and You're getting into the same situations over and over and over again, right? And so the reason why you want to fix it is because there's so many fucking reasons, but this shit is so covert. If you don't fix it, you're never going to know yourself. It's really a beautiful thing, actually, to get into stuff. It's very scary and very difficult. Okay, don't get me wrong. But I can tell you this. I'm very, very glad that I went in there. Because I definitely understand myself at a level that I would have never understood myself before. And also, I can protect myself. And also, I can understand myself. And like, I can forgive myself because I can see that so many things I did, I can see why I did them now. Like, I actually understand what I was trying to do at that time. Whereas before, I didn't understand. People would ask me, why do you do these things, you know? And I'm like, I was kind of like trying to figure it out. I didn't know, right? So you go back into your brain and then you realize there was part that was actually turned off or turned down. So it could be like some kind of feelings, or it could be some fear, or whatever it is. And then there's ways that you can go back in, and as an adult, switch that back on, because you're always still inside yourself. You're not like a computer where they take out parts and they're gone forever. You're actually still there. So it's like you're uncovering, you know, like the Buddhas in Thailand, when they drop them, they break open and there's like a better Buddha inside. There's like an emerald Buddha inside of this clay Buddha, right? And so now they know that every Buddha has another Buddha inside, right? Because there was a war, there was an invasion, and they didn't want the emerald Buddha to get stolen, so they made it into a clay Buddha. And then nobody, just sat there.
And then all the people that did that all got killed.
Yeah.
And then the secret...
This is like 500,000 years ago, right? And then now nobody even knows, you know. But there's tons of like emerald Buddhas and gold Buddhas inside of clay Buddhas now, right? So they're now realizing that, you know. So, you know, it's like you're still in there, right? So when you go back in and find that you're who you would have been, right? It's actually very, very enjoyable. So it's not like some big hand job thing. It's actually you find yourself. So it's a very worthwhile journey, and you also protect yourself against doing other things. I think too you get more sympathy for people because you realize that it's just a defense mechanism. It's a survival thing, right? It's, you know, in a sense they're kind of the winners because they made it, right?
Yeah. They
survived whatever they had to survive, right? You know, whatever it was. Everybody's different, and a lot of times, like literally, people don't remember for years. And then, but if you get into the path of getting in there, eventually you'll start to piece it together. You'll start to piece it together because something will just come to you out of nowhere. And you'll just go, wait a second. Back at that day, when this happened, that guy did that, and I remember they said that. And then I realized, you know, it's like, and you'll start to put it together, your own life from your own history, not like some fake thing where you're making shit up. You'll actually remember. You know, I was behind on my wagon, and then this happened, and then I heard my dad over there, and you're like, oh my God, like, why didn't I remember that before, you know? Because then you start to realize that it all makes sense, like it all falls into place. So for your life, but it's not something you can read in a book, but it's by getting into the path of and starting to unwind these things, is your own, the truth comes out, and then you think, oh, I can't face this, right? It's too much. But then you work through that. You use good techniques. There's all kinds of techniques you can use. There's some very, very awesome techniques, and I'll just give you a basic rundown of some of them. It just not exactly techniques, but just to give you the idea of the techniques. Like, for example, let's say that this represents facing your fears totally, right? So then you might come here with your drone and float in, and then float out, and then come back in again. You can stay a little bit longer, and then you zip out, and then you come back in longer. Finally, you can stand right here. So there's techniques to actually not to just jump in and feel all the feelings, right? And there's other ways where you can come in and see things without feeling them, so that you can just actually watch them instead of like immediately going, because when you've been abused, what happens is you go into the emotional mind, and so you basically get catatonic, or you get very angry, or your blood pressure goes way up, and then you're irrational. You can't talk, you can't think. Your brain is like when you're in a fight or something, like you just can't. You're not able to like rationally talk, right? So because it wakes that up, right? So it's your emotional brain, it's your amygdala that's overactive in that situation. And then it just takes over so you think, I can't face this. But actually there's techniques that you actually can do it without feeling like that. So that's the thing. Everybody thinks if I'm going to think about childhood, I'm going to fall into this insane fear. But there's one technique so that you can come close to it and come out. There's other ones where you can do simple things they discovered, which was crazy. But one of them is you can move your finger like this, and you watch your finger, as it moves back and forth, as you're telling the story. You watch with your eyes back and forth. And what it does is it separates the emotion from the thinking. Pretty well, actually. You have to practice it, but you can tell the story and then watch this, and I'll try to go as far as you can, and then you'll be able to do something you couldn't do before. So there's these techniques you can use, but you can start to go in there without going into the breakdown mode, and because that's why people don't want to do this, because they think there's only one way. I did it before, it was really painful, I don't want to do that again, right? You don't want to do it again. That's true. You don't ever want to do that again, and you don't ever have to do that again. You can always have some kind of armor, some kind of defense where you're testing it, but you're not. What I mean? Like there's a number of things you can do, and there's another one called, I think it's called IVF, which we would have to act out. I was hoping that D was going to be here and we were going to do it, but he's not able to make it. I can write it. I can send it. I forget. I think it's IVF, but it's basically it's you're recreating it, the scene, but it's a very special way you're doing it. So I don't want to give. I'd have to I want to explain this one perfectly.
Like family constellations.
But it's similar. I don't know if it's a family thing where you're recreating using people that are here, but it's a new technique, and it's by one particular guy, and it's absolutely miraculous. Like people have gone from being complete messes to having total handle, like girls that are cutting themselves all the time, and just always cutting it, to being like normal people, having jobs and stuff by going in there and recreating stuff and then changing it in their mind to the way that they want to live their life. Yeah. Because you don't deserve to live like that. You know what I mean? That's not what you were made to be. You know what I mean? So so that's how. And then also just realizing that if you fucked with a girl that is this type of girl, you got to know there's meaning to that. And I don't mean as blame, because that's what people think. It's just that there's meaning. It's like telling you something. It's almost like a good thing, because it's telling you something you would never see any other way. Nobody else could tell you except for a girl you like. It has to be somebody that you really like, because that's down at that level, that emotional level. Your friends can never bring you down that low to that level where it's going to wake that thing up, right? So when it takes you down there, so it's kind of like a gift in a way, because once it is if you're fucking here, you know what I mean? If you're doing something about your life. But if you're just a normal guy, then it's like the nightmare, right? Because then it always makes you, pain. But actually, if you go in fearless, fucking fearless, and say, I can figure this out. Ronin did it, so-and-so did. I can do this. I can fucking figure this out. You know what I mean? And you can. Yeah. It doesn't take a genius. But just you need the good techniques and the right stuff. And luckily, there's some really good stuff on YouTube for free. Really, really amazing. Because I don't trust most counselors, most therapists. Most of them, they say a lot of stuff really anti-men. And it's usually there'll be some abusive thing, whatever it is. Let's just say any personality disorder. And the first thing they always say is usually men have this. Now, there is no data on that, because personality disorders are never, ever... Okay, here's basically, I'll end on this, and this is really good. Okay, so when does a doctor diagnose you with a personality disorder?
When you go see the doctor. You have to get to the
No. Why would you in real life? You could, right? Technically, there's been people who have, but in real life, when would you get diagnosed with a personality disorder?
When getting a prescription filled for a drug?
You want to go in.
When you're arrested.
When you're forced.
When you're fucking arrested. Okay. Now, who gets arrested?
Men.
Who gets charged? Who gets off for the same crime?
Women.
right? So it's when you're being convicted, that's when the psychologist comes in. When you're being convicted of a crime, this is when almost every single diagnosis comes in. So you're being convicted of a crime, and then the psychologist says, interviews you and says he has, whatever malignant person, he's a psychopath. What's that?
That's when they collect the data.
That's when the data comes, and that's when the data is stamped into history on your fucking back. Your tattoo. You get the tattoo. It's when let's say there's a man and woman, same crime, men are convicted how many times more? 4 or 6 times or 8 times? It's like insane. So basically women hardly ever go to jail for the same crime. And men, when they do go to jail, it's even worse because they get 64% longer sentences once they are convicted. Now most women don't even go to jail, just like most cops don't give tickets to girls for speeding. All my girlfriends get off on their tickets. They'll tell me. You see it all the way from the bottom to the top.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I drive you that fast?
Yeah, like, and of course the guy lets her off. So that doesn't get her into the system, the penal system, right? But once you're in the system, then it just gets worse, right? Because, it's like now you have a record. So then the police don't trust you when they pull you over. They say, oh, he's got a fucking record, right? So then they treat you differently, right? And then they're waiting for you to make a mistake. And they're egging you on, And so then it just becomes worse and worse. And this is why it's so terrible to go to juvenile hall, But it's usually men. So who goes to jail? Men. Who gets diagnosed? Men. So then the students get their books, textbooks, and they read how many people have personality disorders. Well, they don't really realize what comes before the data. It's how you collect the data makes all the difference. If you just go to a black neighborhood and just interview black people, you could come out with 100% criminals are black, right? And then you don't go to white areas, right? Because you say, well, we just wanted to get some data, It's like, well, you went to a fucking black neighborhood, right? You're going to have black people, right? So it's like that. A lot of times these guys have major axes to grind when they're collecting data. They don't want the real fucking data. Very biased. And everybody is somewhat biased, but it's data collection is the most evil when it comes to men, because that once that gets in there, then the students see it and the students study it, they write papers about it and they write books about it and they create philosophies about it, and then that goes on TV. And then when you go to counseling, the counselor will say, well, so what is this? And then she'll say, well, my husband, he does this. And she'll say, well, that sounds like a personality. 85% of personality disorders are men. So it becomes, nobody knows what the other one's doing. It's like an evil machine that starts with the data. And then it becomes a hopeless situation on the other end. But nobody's connecting the dots, right? So for men, why do we, it's personality disorders just never fucking nobody fucking, there's no reason for a psychologist to diagnose anybody unless they're being convicted. No one wants to go in and say, hey, do I have a personality disorder that's going to ruin my life on my record? Yeah.
Well,
Please.
The only other reason is to get a prescription for some drug.
Well, even then, no, you have a choice of which one you're going to choose.
Yeah.
You're going to choose the one that's the least amount of hassle. Right. Back pain, Oxycontin.
Right.
Yeah. You're not going to say, I am a psychopath. Give me Oxycontin. You know what I mean? You're going to say, oh, I'm dizzy. You're not going to say personality disorder. No way. So that's the thing. Is like, so that's why it's so dangerous to study this stuff with a lot of these books, because they also, this is what we're fighting against, guys. It's like, it starts in every way. So it hurts us in our marriages, it hurts us in our relationships, hurts us in our jobs, and then it hurts us in going to jail, and then it hurts us in like when we're abused, because always we're the ones that caused it, or it's usually men, so they don't believe it. So this is called gaslighting. Is when like, so for example, something happens to you, right? Your dad does something to you, right? And then when your mom comes home, he's not doing it anymore. And then you say, well, daddy was, doing this. And I wasn't doing that. He's making stuff up, you know. He's like, he thought I was doing this, you know. And the kid's like, nah, he was doing that. And they're like, you know, shut up. We know you're not lying because your daddy said, you know. And so that's gaslighting, where you're not allowed to have your own reality. And this sounds like a small thing, but this really fucks you up. Gaslighting really fucks you up because eventually you get to the point where, and take it from me, you get it to the point where you start to think that your own reality is not real. And you have to ask other people to know if it's real. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to...
so many different angles.
Because you're not sure, because you were with somebody who never...
Put so much doubt in your head.
Who, yeah, like and you think it's... Here's the thing about all these fucking things is it feels so normal. It feels so normal. So, for example, I had a very difficult time when I was younger making decisions on investments. I would always know what to do because I did a lot of studying. Bitcoin at 25 cents. I would see these things and I was like, I know this is good. But I didn't feel like I had the right to know this was good. So I'd tell somebody, hey, Bitcoin, what is it? Oh, it's this thing on the internet. It's the internet money. It's going to go up. And then my friend would say, nah, that's bullshit. And I'd be like, so I'd ask somebody else, you know, my mom, you know, this Bitcoin thing, it's going to go up. I think it's going to be really good. You know, it's going to be like awesome. Like dollar's going to go down. The U.S. government will get destroyed. You know, all this stuff I was, you know, theorizing. And then she'll say, oh, that's crazy. That's never good. The government would stop that, you know. And then, so that I wouldn't buy it. Because I needed somebody else to tell me. I needed somebody else. If somebody else would have said, yeah, that sounds fucking good.
You needed a validation.
Yeah, well, it's a validation of my thinking being real or if it being a good idea. And so I needed somebody else to say, hey, you know, that's a good idea. Like, I want to see you put $1,000 on that today. If you don't do it, I'm going to kick your ass. You know, I almost needed somebody to do that, to get myself to do it. And I could see it in investments. I would always see it in investments because I would figure something out. I was telling Seiji, I found a building in Harajuku, $640,000, 3 stories, right next to Harajuku Station. Insane value. I got it at the auctions. I'm the only foreigner down there, speaking Japanese at the auctions, betting, you know, putting bids in on buildings. And it was fucking insane. It was great. It's called K-Buy. It was like, I was down there, like down at the K-Buy, I was just, you know, and I finally got this building and I could have got it. And then I just didn't, I was alone, right? I didn't have anybody else to say, hey, do it. Do it. You know, and I was by myself. I was like, I felt good that I got this far, like a foreigner, in the auctions, complicated, fast money. I saved my money. I saw the building. You know, I just needed somebody like, you know, just do it, man.
So you couldn't trust your own instinct.
I couldn't trust my instinct when it came to investments. I could really see it in investments.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. You know, I just needed someone else to tell me it was a good idea. Anyway, but when I went back into my past, I realized why I didn't. There's a very good reason why I was like that. You know, there was a really good reason. So once I untangled that, I was able to dismantle that and realize the absurdness of this. Like, who is this idiot to tell me whatever they told me way back then, and then to cause me to distrust my own judgments at this age? You know, and I've been right about so many investments. Like, you know, just like so many times I'll be like, I just, you know, my videos are long, right? I'll just study the shit out of something. And I'll be like, this is it, not that one, this one, and then I wouldn't do it.
Right.
And then it would just, you know, I just like, and I just over and over, and I couldn't understand it, right? But how I overcame that was by working on this other stuff, which didn't seem related. And then when I started to dismantle this whole thing that had happened in my mind, it freed me up when I started to realize that not only am I good at figuring out investments, I'm really good. Like, of course I'm going to invest in my ideas. And idiots don't buy them. Fuck all you guys. You know what I mean? I'll kick all, you know what I mean? I'm going to get it, man. You know, I know this is the one, you know. Money down, baby. Boom. You know. But it's like I had to kind of go through the whole process. So I didn't think that investments would be related to abuse. But for me, it really was. because I never felt like my reality. I just needed someone else to kind of, and of course that worked negatively too. Let's go and do this bad thing, and then someone's like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. And then I was always the leader, so I'd go do that. I would be the one to get in trouble. You know what I mean?
So everyone says it's a good idea. Let's do it. Yeah.
Right.
Inside you're like, this feels like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying it's a good idea, so I'm going to do it. Even though I know it's bad.
That's why today I will do things that might seem a little bit odd. Like last night we were walking, and I bought a bunch of vegetables, and then I went in the bathroom by myself and I washed the vegetables, and I ate them in the toilet, and I came out after I ate the pumpkin, the spinach, all that stuff, like a whole thing of spinach, and then I was great. I felt great for the whole night because I don't care. Like I know I need those vegetables, and I'm just gotta get them any way I can, and then I'm good for the rest of the night because I don't want to be like one of these guys who eats white rice all day. I don't want to be like diabetes and shit. I don't care. Anybody else can do that. I don't want to do that. So but I know that, and I know that also if you go to high-end restaurants, they never have enough vegetables anyway. They don't even have vegetables usually. So I got to go to the fucking store, get my vegetables, wash them any way I can. I would piss on them if I had to. You know what I mean? I'm going to wash them any way I can. I'm going to fucking eat them, and then I'm fucking fine, right? Because I know that's what I got to do. Yep. That's my path every day, right? And that's what I got to do. So it's like learning that and then just owning that. So some things were easy for me, some things were really hard. Investments was one of the hardest ones because that was trusting myself at another level. And so I had a real difficult time with that one. And so I'm just now getting to the point where I'm totally dismantling the old belief system in my mind, So when you spot something like this, it's actually gold. It's actually gold. Because it leads you down a path where you discover yourself, and then it gives you insane insights in yourself. And it actually feels great. Like I can tell you now, I feel younger today than I have in a long time because my mind is more free than it's ever been. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like it's like fucking I'm floating on air because I've let go of some things I thought about myself, and even stories that I told about myself that I thought were true. They were absolutely not true. And I can see why. I can see why they were created. I can see why they weren't true. It's not like I'm convincing myself. I'm actually excavating and going in there and going into. So I've gone into a lot of secret history by talking to people that knew my family and everything. I've gone back in and found out what really happened way back when, before I was born. And I've gotten a lot of like realizing why things were where they were. And I was able to piece together I went back, because that's what you want to do. You want to go all the way back and find out why the people that raised you were like how they are. Right? It's not like black and white, like they're bad. You've got problems too, right? That's where we started, right? And then they have problems. And so you dig into why that they had those problems, right? And then you forgive fucking everybody. Because you realize that we're all just trying to survive. And some people are better than others,
What you just said is I heard that from the guy named Gabor something.
Talking to Mike.
What's this? Gabor Mate or something.
Closer.
Gabor Mate? Mate Gabor?
Okay.
Yeah, he had a video that says...
Talk right into it.
That's the mic end. Oh, that's the mic.
Up to your mouth. Yeah.
Oh. Gabor Mate, a guy, he said something like that when a lot of your personality did come about when you were an infant in your stomach or something. Yeah. So that's when you mentioned that, I remember that guy's name.
Okay.
So that's
sure.
Yeah, Gabor Mate, I think.
It all goes back. It all goes back to things, and it's seriously worthwhile journey, guys. So that's what I would say on that one. So we'll end there on that one.